The fog-shrouded fields near Arracourt, France, on September 19, 1944, set the stage for a dramatic shift in armored warfare. First Lieutenant Merwin Menn and his crew of the 37th Tank Battalion were scanning the mist-covered terrain ahead, acutely aware of the deadly threat posed by German Panthers. These formidable German tanks, with their sloped armor, had proven nearly impervious to standard American shells used up until that time. Unbeknownst to the crew, their ammunition rack held 6 specialized rounds that would fundamentally rewrite the tactical calculus of the war. These were the M93 high-velocity armor-piercing rounds, or HVAP, each containing a dense tungsten carbide core. This specialized ammunition was capable of transforming their medium Sherman into a credible and unexpected threat that German tankers would soon fear. The story of this specialized ammunition type begins far from the battlefields of France, deep within the industrial facilities and testing grounds of the United States. In early 1944, the U.S. Army faced a critical dilemma. The M4 Sherman tank, the backbone of American armored divisions, could not reliably defeat the German Panther from the front. The Panther, Germany's sophisticated answer to the Soviet T-34, combined a powerful, high-velocity 75mm gun with 80mm glacis plate sloped at 55 degrees. This sloping created an effective armor thickness of approximately 140 millimeters, which was nearly impenetrable to standard American tank guns. American intelligence had catastrophically underestimated the quantity and quality of Panthers deployed, predicting only a handful when hundreds were ultimately present. By the time Allied forces landed in Normandy in June 1944, Panthers constituted 38% of German tanks in the theater. The standard 75mm M3 gun, armed on most Shermans in Normandy, could not penetrate the Panther's frontal armor at any distance. Even the improved 76mm M1 gun, which began reaching units in July 1944, struggled immensely against the Panther's sloped frontal armor. Using the standard M62 armor-piercing capped rounds, the 76mm gun could penetrate 109mm of armor at 1,000 meters, which was sufficient for Panzer IVs but not for the Panther. The deployment of the 76mm gun itself had been marked by bureaucratic hesitation and delayed recognition of the threat. Although the first M4 Shermans mounting the 76mm M1 gun arrived in Britain in April 1944, commanders refused to deploy them on D-Day. They cited logistical concerns, inadequate crew training, and, most critically, the mistaken belief that the 75mm Theater gun would suffice against the expected opposition. Field reports from Normandy quickly painted a grim picture of the 75mm gun's ineffectiveness against the formidable German armor. General Dwight Eisenhower himself voiced command-level frustration in July 1944, angered that ordnance had assured him the 76mm would handle anything the Germans possessed. A board convened on July 12, 1944, officially confirmed what tank crews already knew. Standard American weapons could not defeat Panthers frontally. The tactical solution was found not in developing a new tank, but in metallurgy and physics, specifically the development of the T4 round, later standardized as the M93 HVAP. HVAP represented a fundamental departure from conventional armor-piercing design by using a tungsten carbide core surrounded by a lightweight aluminum body. This design concentrated the kinetic energy into a smaller, denser penetrator while allowing for a significant reduction in overall projectile weight. The resulting increase in velocity was dramatic, achieving 1,036 meters per second compared to 792 meters per second for the standard M62 round. This translated directly into devastating penetrating power. The HVAP round could penetrate 160 millimeters of armor at 1,000 yards at 10 degrees obliquity. Crucially, the HVAP round made the Panther's gun mantlet, a curved, thick section of cast steel, a reliably penetrable target up to 1,000 meters, instead of only at point-blank range. However, production was severely hampered by the need for tungsten carbide, a strategic material primarily imported from China. Each 76mm HVAP round consumed approximately 0.8 kg of this scarce material. Tungsten was vital for numerous war industries, creating intense competition for the limited global supply. While the U.S. supplemented imports with domestic mining, total availability remained constrained. The United States Ordnance Department had tested HVAP since 1942, but large-scale production only began after the severity of the Panther problem in Normandy was recognized. Monthly production of 76mm HVAP rounds was only 1,000 in August and September 1944. Not until November 1944 did monthly production reach 5,000 rounds, ramping up to 7,000 by January 1945. By February 1945, the average 76mm Sherman tank in Europe had received a total allocation of just 5 HVAP rounds. The psychological impact on American tank crews had been severe, leading to the nickname Ronson Lighter for the Sherman, due to the perceived ease with which it caught fire. Tank commanders often chose to call for air or artillery support rather than engaging Panthers directly. The arrival of HVAP rounds slowly began to change this tactical calculus, hampered only by the extreme scarcity of the specialized ammunition. The first widespread combat test of HVAP occurred not in the tight confines of Normandy's bocage, but in the open country of Lorraine during the Battle of Arracourt. In September 1944, Lieutenant General George Patton's Third Army was racing toward the German border, and General Hasso von Manteuffel's 5th Panzer Army was ordered to counterattack and destroy the American bridgehead. The German force, including the newly formed 111th and 113th Panzer Brigades, equipped mostly with factory-fresh Panthers, anticipated an overwhelming victory based on technical superiority. The 113th Panzer Brigade alone fielded approximately 90 tanks and assault guns, including 42 Panthers. The Battle of Arracourt, fought over 11 days, proved this assumption fundamentally mistaken. On the foggy morning of September 19th, elements of the 113th Panzer Brigade advanced blindly in column formation, a serious tactical error, into terrain held by prepared American forces. Captain Kenneth R. Lamison's C Company of the 37th Tank Battalion, whose crews had been briefed on the proper use of the 6 HVAP rounds per tank, held key defensive positions. The fog that limited German reconnaissance now favored the American defenders. When the first Panther emerged from the mist barely 75 meters away, the American gunner fired instantly. The HVAP round struck the Panther's gun mantlet, the tungsten carbide core punching through the cast steel and detonating the ammunition stored beneath the breech. The Panther exploded catastrophically, and 2 more Panthers emerging in quick succession were destroyed within seconds, their inexperienced crews unable to react. Throughout that morning, American tanks used the fog for concealment, engaging Panthers at close ranges where HVAP was most effective. Near Arracourt's command post, M18 Hellcat tank destroyers, also equipped with HVAP, proved devastatingly effective in the close-range, fog-shrouded fighting. The battle demonstrated that American forces, utilizing combined arms doctrine, could overcome superior German individual tank performance. German tanks advanced without air cover, artillery support, or infantry to clear American positions. HVAP ammunition, while not making the Sherman technically equal to the Panther, provided the necessary tool to exploit vulnerabilities. The psychological impact on German morale was profound. Their belief in the absolute invulnerability of the Panther's frontal armor was shattered. Panther crews had been specifically trained to believe that the front of their tank was safe from American fire. Survivors of HVAP penetrations spread the alarming news that the mantlet was a known vulnerability. German commanders reported confusion, some claiming the Americans were using secret 90mm guns or British 17-pounder Fireflies. The reality was more troubling to German planners. American industry had developed specialized ammunition capable of negating the Panther's primary advantage. By September 22nd, when the major German offensive stalled, American forces had destroyed or disabled approximately 86 German vehicles against a loss of 25 Shermans. The kill ratio heavily favored the Americans. German after-action reports struggled to explain how technically superior tanks crewed by inexperienced soldiers had been so comprehensively defeated. German intelligence examining the wrecks found smaller than expected entry holes, confirming the deployment of tungsten-core ammunition. This discovery highlighted a massive strategic failure for Germany. Their limited tungsten supply forced them to prioritize machine tools over specialized ammunition. If the Americans could field specialized tungsten ammunition, it demonstrated a resource and industrial capacity Germany could not match. The HVAP rounds, even in short supply, began to dissipate the psychological paralysis that had hindered some American units during the Normandy fighting. A crew that believes it can fight will engage aggressively, while a crew that feels outmatched will hesitate. The shortage remained critical, however, leading to operational tensions as tank destroyers often received preferential allocation over Shermans. The Battle of the Bulge in December 1944 pushed the HVAP shortage to a crisis point, with some units exhausting their supply completely. Even during this difficult fighting, American forces relied heavily on tactical skill, infantry coordination, and artillery support to compensate for the continued technical disadvantage. Despite its success, HVAP had technical limitations that American crews learned through bitter experience. The tungsten carbide core was brittle and could shatter if the impact velocity dropped too low, typically below 200-300 feet per second. This meant HVAP effectiveness declined significantly beyond 1,000 meters, particularly against the mantlet. Furthermore, against the Panther's highly sloped glacis plate, HVAP results were generally poor, unless fired at very close range and favorable angles. Sergeant Francis Baker's experience in November 1944 demonstrated that even HVAP could bounce off the Panther's side armor if struck at oblique angles, reminding crews it was not a magical solution. Post-war analysis revealed that against the mantlet at close ranges, HVAP was highly effective, often causing catastrophic secondary explosions. However, success still required proper tactics, careful shot placement, and skilled judgment. The legacy of HVAP development continues to influence modern ammunition design, with current armor-piercing, fin-stabilized discarding sabot rounds using tungsten alloys or depleted uranium. This continuity proves the foundational lesson: concentrate maximum kinetic energy into a small, extremely dense projectile moving at the highest possible velocity. September 19, 1944, at Arracourt, marked a genuine turning point in the psychological balance of armored warfare. German crews lost confidence in their armor, and American crews gained confidence that they possessed the tool needed to defeat the Panther under favorable conditions. The shift from uncertain defenders to confident attackers, though enabled by specialized ammunition, ultimately proved that industrial capacity and operational doctrine mattered more than superior individual tank performance.